Welcome to Think Deeply, Speak Simply, brought to you by Present, a show about the art and science of communicating ideas and how business professionals can unlock their careers and achieve their full potential with great communication. And now, here are your hosts, Jay Rook and Antoine Valentone.
And Mayte, welcome to the show. So happy you're here today.
Hello, good afternoon, good morning. Nice to be here.
We're thrilled to have you. Mayte, you're the Emerging Talent and Apprentice Incubator leader at Cisco. Could you tell us about your career at Cisco and specifically about your current role?
My jobs at Cisco have always been very transformational. I love to create, to leave something much better than I found it, move from A to Z, and always people-centric. So we are celebrating this year the 20 years of a center I opened in India, in Bangalore, long time ago. So all my roles have always been, they're there to stay. And in my current role, I'm super excited because I am now to build, to create the next generation Cisco, and really focusing on lifting up emerging talent and rising talent.
How exciting.
Yeah, indeed. Super, super.
Love that. Mayte, when you think about identifying emerging talent and which leaders we choose to cultivate, what are the common communication capacities you notice in the individuals you're selecting for the program?
So, traditionally, people will think about someone that is very articulated, but I don't think that way at all. What I think is the soul of the person. And if someone cares for the business, cares for the people, and is authentic, I believe that they can communicate very well in business.
Excellent. And on a similar note, what are the common themes that you see around areas where you coach up we start that over. On a similar note, what common themes do you see around the areas you coach up candidates on their communication while they're in the program?
I really focus on the clarity of the message. I always think, can you tell me it in 3 words, what you just said? Say it really simply. And okay, after they tell me the 3 words, then I tell them, okay, now tell me in 50, they tell me the story. But first I want to know what is the essence. So helping people find the essence is what I coach them, because you know the story. I wrote you a long letter because I didn't have time to write a short letter. Yes. So I really believe that we need to develop in general. I help the emerging talent to focus on that, get into the so what.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And Mayte, talk to us about the Proximity Initiative and what it's taught you about transparency and communication.
But the Proximity Initiative, it was launched at Cisco by some very visionary leaders like Maria Martinez and Alex Allen. They really wanted us to get to know people different than us as leaders. And at the beginning, I thought, well, I travel the world. I've lived everywhere in the world. I've lived paying taxes in China, in India, in the US, in Europe, in many, many countries. I think I understand people different than me. But to be honest, when I really did these proximity meetings, I learned that, I have so many blind spots still. And it was real transformational. And I even wrote a blog because I really learned a lot from the proximity meetings. You want to know what I learned a bit, or?
I'm sorry. I apologize. How was the communication in those sessions different from the conversations we would typically have in the workplace?
Normally, many times in meetings and when you talk with people in business, you listen to react. It is very well known. Everybody is listening, waiting for, okay, when am I going to react with my point? In these proximity meetings, this is real, genuine, listening, talking to really learn something that you didn't know before. And that does not happen so often in business, but it does happen in the proximity meetings because you go there to really learn something that you didn't know before. And that totally changes how you communicate, how you listen, how you engage.
Yeah. You mentioned all these wonderful places that you've lived in and so much diversity in that. What have those experiences taught you about communicating across cultures and countries?
Everybody knows you have to focus on the audience. I will not be sharing anything that everybody knows. Audience is the most important part of the communication, but when you really are confronted with such a different cultures, like I have been, you realize that being authentic and listening to the audience means different. It's different in different places. So in some places, you can do that in a meeting, straight. You are authentic, you listen, you target, you send your message. But in some other cultures, that's not work at all like that. You go to a meeting, you still listen, you still do everything that I said, but then you have to follow up probably afterwards to really get the things understood. You have to always do it in one-on-ones afterwards. Some other cultures, they need it before the meeting. If you go to the meeting and you have not prepared everybody, the meeting is not going to be successful. So each culture is more than the audience, it's really the culture on how you have to adjust, how you go about it, not to be an authentic. No, you can be the same authentic self, but how you execute, it's very different in many different parts of the world. Even within Europe, I can tell you very different countries, so different how you have to adjust your communication style. I always think based on authenticity. That's for me the common denominator. Authenticity goes without saying, but now how do you apply? The vehicle to bring it forward, your authentic self, is very different in each different culture indeed.
Yeah, it's a great point to be aware of the different cultures and the willingness to adapt. It makes a huge difference. Let's change gears a bit, Mayte. Just curious, so your Cisco career spanned over 24 years, which is very impressive. How has your communication style evolved, and what advice would you have given yourself earlier in your career?
Well, yeah, indeed, it's almost a quarter of a century, so I can tell myself a lot of things if I would go back. And one of them, it's very basic, but you know that how different is how people get the message. Some people are really visual, and you need to have a presentation that is really in front of them before you talk. Some other people are totally audio, so don't put anything in front of them. You really have to talk. Some others, they really want something very creative. Don't put words, put something unique, and then you get their attention immediately. Some others are super logical. You have to have a flow. So I would have liked to know that, because I have gone many times communicating in my way to everybody, targeting the audience, but not the style, not the mechanism. That has been for me the big learning, that the mechanism to communicate is super critical for the message to be heard.
Love that. About today's theme of transparent communication, would you like to talk about that we haven't discussed already?
I think it's all about effectiveness. For me, communication, there is nothing, the only reason why we communicate is to be effective on the outcome, and have to find what is going to make the communication more effective. And I already mentioned it. Sometimes it's a PowerPoint, but sometimes it's a song. So having to adjust that much the mechanism to deliver your message, but always based on a real authenticity. At least that's for me. The topic of this conversation is about transparent communication. And I cannot believe any communication is possible if you are not transparent. And that is the basics. That's the table stakes. And then you start building the layers, okay? So first transparency, then simplicity, then the audience, then the media, the mechanism. So it's quite a process to communicate. Mm-hmm. And many people underestimate that all we do in business is to communicate for effectiveness. And I think that that is something I wanted to emphasize, because it's not just to go to a meeting. Why do you go to a meeting? To achieve something. And how do we achieve it? With communication.
Yeah, that's great. So this is a perfect lead into our next question. This is something we ask all the guests on the show. Do you think great business communication is more of an art or a science, and why?
Yeah, I heard some of your podcasts before, so I was expecting it. And I tell you how I see it. For me, art is in your DNA. And science is something you can learn, you can teach, you can practice. So communication for me is a science.
Love that. And what advice would you have for aspiring business leaders who want to improve their communication?
I think I kind of probably repeating myself, but I might have not set enough the listening part of the communication. Listen well, because no matter how well prepared you are with everything I said, you prepare everything that I explained before, you message transparent, well articulated, simple, with the right media, but you start communicating and something might change what you had thought and prepared. So always listen at every single step of your communication. Always have checkpoints. From the moment you start, is this what we are going to talk about? And as you go, as much as possible, keep on checking that your message is getting through as you expected. And I also would say that I'll advise people to lean in the amazing people that are out there that know about communication. Because communication is a science, means you can learn it. So it means that someone teach it. So there are people that teach it and people that can really show how it's being done well. There is a whole university degree of journalism that is designed to really know how to communicate well, how to find the titles, how to find the key messages, how to articulate it. So lean in someone that is a professional. And that would be one of my advices for anybody that is starting in their career, because communication is not easy. It's nothing connected to being a native speaker. There is a much more, it's a whole human topic. Speaking, listening, being effective, getting your message through. It's a big undertaking. Don't take it for granted, basically.
And where can our listeners find you on social media and follow you on the internet?
I use a lot of LinkedIn. I like LinkedIn because it's a professional network and it's targeted and it's industry-based. So that's my best method for social media. Not so much into Twitter. So I would recommend you connect with me, LinkedIn.
Excellent. Well, on behalf of myself and Antoine and all of our listeners, just want to say thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciated your thoughtful responses to our questions. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation. I really enjoyed it. And I think your theme of think deeply, speak simply, I didn't use it, but I think it's a great one.
Thanks so much for that.
Thank you. Stay well, everybody.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Think Deeply, Speak Simply. To learn more about the art and science of communicating ideas, visit our free resources at present.com. That's PREZENT.com.